Welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is Dr. Poonam Gulalia. I am faculty with the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. The paper which is going to be discussed is titled Fieldwork and Field Supervision. The module which is going to be discussed with you now is titled Student as a Learner. The content of this module is as follows. I would begin with the objectives, move on to the introduction, discuss with you what does it mean to be working with people in the field, move on to the need for student records and feedback, take you through the need and understanding of why fieldwork is a guided process, move on to aspects of mid-placement review of fieldwork and evaluation of the fieldwork as a year-end activity. Further, I will be discussing with you on the reflection of self as a student social worker, followed by a brief on how to resolve problems which may arise in meeting the competency expectations in field practicum. When we discuss fieldwork and the role of student as a learner, it is essential at the outset to begin by explaining what are the expectations one has from you as a student learner. You will be guided and mentored, facilitated and helped to undertake fieldwork as an ongoing program activity by supervisors, faculty advisors, field contacts and paraprofessionals. But it is essential for you to be actively and responsibly participate in the ongoing learning process on fieldwork. This requires being prepared with an agenda, being prepared with a learning plan, and timely presentation of the required weekly recordings and time diary. While a student is in the field and is going for concurrent fieldwork twice a week to the assigned fieldwork agency, he or she will also have to find time to meet with the supervisor on a weekly basis. These individual meetings with supervisors are called individual conferences. On the other hand, you will have co-workers and co-classmates who may be placed in the same agency or organization with you, or peers based in a similar organization anchored by the same center. Therein you will be called upon to participate in group meetings which are called group conferences. The other expectations which are essential for you to understand as a student learner is to be ready and open to learning opportunities which are being provided to you, to maintain the code of conduct, to maintain the standards which the agency follows, and to conduct oneself as per the required situation. Readiness in being a self-reflective learner is the other expectation for you, to be able to use yourself to evaluate the learning opportunities which are being provided to you by the said placement agency. As a student learner, you will be working with people in the field. You will be engaging with different stakeholders. So you will be expected to build rapport and relationship with the field contacts, with the paraprofessionals, with the clients, with the beneficiaries, or with the target groups, or with the communities you work with. While doing so, you will learn to demonstrate respect for the dignity and worth of each individual, each group, each community. It will also require you to gain and retain sensitivity towards them, both individually and collectively. This will help you to learn the ability to work with people from diverse backgrounds and from various marginalized sections. It will provide you with an opportunity to understand their needs and their social realities, whether they are individual realities or group realities. It will also enable you to analyze situations, and subsequently you will be able to develop a perspective to guide your actions and interventions in the field. Working with the people in the field, working with various stakeholders requires that you be careful and be considerate of their needs and concerns. The following are good beginning assignments and learning opportunities for you when you engage with people in the field. One is to develop a list of questions that you could ask them. Two, you could begin to shadow specific staff members or field contacts or supervisors in the field. Third, there are ways which can be devised and designed to orient you to the agency in which you are placed for field work. Fourth, you could receive orientation through a case that is being undertaken by the agency or which is in progress through the agency setting. Fifth, you could be invited to be a participant observer to an interaction or a counseling session which is taking place, or even a community meeting which is taking place in the setting. Next, you could be permitted and you could be provided with opportunities wherein contact can be initiated with an intake experience in the fieldwork agency. The fact remains that you would need to undertake responsibility for your own work even when you undertake a social study or primary data collection. As mentioned to you, there is the necessity of you to maintain weekly account of your fieldwork participation, of your fieldwork program, of the fieldwork that you undertake. As a student learner, you would be required to maintain certain records and certain feedback. During the course of the year, you will be required to submit certain feedback forms and maintain certain records. These include initially an information form specifying the interest areas for the purpose of fieldwork placement. Once fieldwork placement is provided to you, you will be required to maintain monthly individual conference and group conference forms with details about the dates when these were held and the content of these meetings. Next, you will be required to maintain monthly attendance sheets of the fieldwork activities that you undertake. Moreover, towards the close of the first semester, you will be required to fill out a midterm review form and undertake a midterm evaluation in collaboration with your respective supervisor. Towards the close of the year, there is a year-end evaluation form which you and your supervisor will fill out independently while discussing it in the evaluation meeting. Once fieldwork placement is over, you will be required to fill out a feedback form on how fieldwork has been for you during the course of the year. As part of student records and in the beginning of the year, there are spaces where pre-placement institutional visits, pre-placement exposure visits are provided to students in smaller groups. These require that at the end of each visit, you write out a detailed report about how the visit has been, which is followed by a group discussion with the facilitator or the mentor who has accompanied you for the visit. As mentioned, you will be also required to submit weekly recordings of your fieldwork to your respective supervisors, which can be discussed with them at the time that you are scheduled for the individual meetings with supervisors. Thirdly, you would need to maintain a time diary, a daily log of every fieldwork day that you go for fieldwork, which is twice a week when there is a concurrent fieldwork program. In the course of the fieldwork placement setting, there would be times when the agency or the supervisor may require you to make certain casework reports, to prepare certain group work reports, to record certain agency meetings, or to prepare certain summary reports on behalf of the organization. These are utilized for student learning but also help contribute to the agency's work. As a student learner, you would need to appreciate and understand that fieldwork is a guided process. As mentioned to you, that individual conferences are an integral part of supervision and play an extremely important role in student learning. The fieldwork supervisor facilitates self-directed learning by the student. As a student learner, you would be required to plan your individual conferences with your supervisor such that time is allotted on a weekly basis at regular intervals, keeping in mind the structure and the consistency which you need to lend to the process of field instruction. The field recordings of students serve as an effective tool for purposive discussion during these conferences. You would be expected to incorporate the suggestions provided to you by the supervisor in the fieldwork settings and in the fieldwork process as you continue your placement. Other than individual conferences, group conferences too are a very effective method of learning within the group. These group conferences are organized at regular intervals in the form of discussion groups comprising students in a common setting, students across settings, and with key persons involved with students. They may be conducted to discuss issues, concerns, review the work of the group members, review your work as well as that of your co-workers, enable you to grow as a professional, and also to provide space to each of you to share your field experiences. While sharing your field experiences, you will also be provided with an opportunity to obtain feedback from your peers as well as from your supervisor, from the agency personnel. Group conferences may be conducted to discuss issues, to review your work, to review the work of your peers, to enable you to grow professionally, and also to enable you to share your field experiences. In this process, you will be able to obtain feedback from your peers, from your co-workers, and also from the agency personnel, the supervisor, or the faculty advisor, all of which are considered as being facilitative of your learning. As a learning activity, fieldwork requires that it be reviewed, evaluated, and monitored. What is evaluation in the context of fieldwork? Evaluation is the more formal aspect of feedback in the guided learning process. It is a continuous process in field education. A structured review and evaluation process is put in place with a mid-placement comprehensive review at the end of the first semester and a final end of the year placement evaluation at the end of the second semester. Like feedback, evaluation is a participatory process, and the fieldwork supervisor needs to explain the evaluation process to the student at the beginning of the placement. Evaluation needs to concentrate not merely on inputs made by the student in terms of willingness, enthusiasm, and energy, but more importantly, on the process and the outcome of the student's efforts. When discussing professional growth of you as a student social worker, it is essential that it be evaluated by examining a number of discrete areas. Broadly speaking, these are as follows. 1. There needs to be consistency of progress in fieldwork performance in your respective fieldwork settings. Secondly, you should have the ability to analyze the situations which you encountered, the people that you engaged with, the interventions that you were able to make with and on behalf of the organization. You should also be provided with the ability to conceptualize and integrate theoretical inputs and apply them appropriately in the practice situations. These also include identification with the social work profession and an ability to internalize the values and goals of the profession. By doing so, there will be motivation for you to help others as against the preoccupation with your own needs and problems. It will also enable you to approach the work that you undertake with the organization that you are placed with professional zeal and responsibility as well as commitment to the profession. While discussing the need for review and feedback, it is also essential to highlight that it will enable you to develop a capacity to relate purposefully with all stakeholders in the field, empathize with them individually and collectively if and when required, and respond appropriately to the fieldwork setting. You need to develop an aptitude to utilize the different methods taught as part of your social work curriculum when undertaking fieldwork. It will enable you to develop a capacity for self-direction, independence, and resourcefulness in the work that you undertake in the fieldwork setting. Lastly, the extent of openness to learning will be the deciding factor for you as a student learner, which implies how receptive are you to accepting constructive criticism and to supervision while believing in adopting appropriate attitudes which are facilitative of student learning. When one has dwelt on the aspect of evaluation and feedback, it is essential to highlight the value of the mid-placement review which is undertaken for students towards the close of the first semester. The areas for future learning need to be taken into account when discussing what has been the progress of the student thus far, what has been his or her learnings in the fieldwork agency, and what is the scope for future learning. These are aspects in which the student is able to demonstrate some competence and wherein he or she needs to develop further effective practice. These also include areas in which the student has not had the opportunity to develop either the confidence or the competence, and which the student is struggling with, or areas which require extraneous factors, wherein extraneous factors have played a significant role and the student has been unable to negotiate in dealing with such issues or contexts. Herein lies the role of the supervisor in facilitating a student learner not only to think ahead, to plan ahead, but also to reflect on self as a worker. This entails the impact the placement experience has had on you as a student learner, the attitude towards field instruction that you have had thus far, and your appraisal of the performance that you have been for in the fieldwork setting. It also helps you examine your own ideological stance, which is reflected in the way you work in the field with other stakeholders. It is inclusive of your openness to learning, the capacity to change and grow as a professional in the making, the capacity to use supervision effectively, and also to help you identify, locate, and utilize the resources available, both in the agency and in the community. Having dwelt on final evaluation, which is towards the close of the second semester and at the end of the academic year, it needs to be stated that this is a comprehensive session wherein the following factors are kept in mind at the time of the evaluation meeting between the supervisor and the student. These are as follows. 1. Understanding the agency where you were placed for fieldwork and the fieldwork setting. Understanding the issues the agency is engaged with and the profile of the organization. Second, what has it meant for you in directly working with people in the community, with people in the agency, and with other stakeholders in the field? Third, what have been your recording and documentation skills that you have learned and enhanced during the course of the year? How has the student been able to utilize field instruction and supervision both at the agency and at the institute, or at the college or the department of social work? And lastly, what has been the professional growth and development of the student in the course of the year? All these are aspects for student learning. Lastly, one needs to highlight that there are aspects and there are spaces where intervention would be required by the schools, the departments of social work, or by the fieldwork coordinator's office, or by the fieldwork secretariat. When does this happen? And what does a student do if he or she runs into trouble or is unable to resolve problems? What does it mean to resolve problems wherein competency expectations are not met? What does it mean wherein skills or competencies in the student are hindered or hampered in the fieldwork setting? One needs to understand that fieldwork practicum is very different from other course curriculum of the department or the schools of social work. in that it entails not only educational objectives but also professional responsibilities to clients, to organizations and to communities. So when students engage with clients or with client populations, with target groups or with service users, and assume certain responsibilities, there are ongoing professional, educational and ethical responsibilities to be kept in mind, whether to individuals, groups, communities or systems. Various kinds of issues, concerns, limitations or external stressors may impact the performance of some students in the course of fieldwork. When personal issues impact field performance and professional behavior, and obligations towards the agency and obligations towards the fieldwork setting are not met appropriately, it is then that the faculty and the field instructors, the fieldwork coordinator and the fieldwork secretariat members would be required to take responsibility and intervene in this process. Resolution of problems in meeting the learning objectives of students require that review meetings be held wherein a clear identification of the problems is made. There is a specification of the learning objectives of fieldwork, the actions and the procedures which the student has undertaken in the field to be taken into account, and a time frame be given for this review meeting wherein all the procedures are taken into consideration, including grading that has been done in this regard. In this stage 1 review meeting, all the processes and outcomes need to be documented, and a copy needs to be given to all stakeholders, including the student, the fieldwork instructor and the fieldwork coordinator. Should the practicum concerns or the fieldwork concerns not be resolved through these above procedures, a stage 2 review meeting would need to be convened, wherein either the dean or the program convener, the director of fieldwork or the fieldwork coordinator would need to play a leadership role. It may be necessary due to the serious nature of the concerns in the fieldwork practicum. The assistant dean or the program convener would need to notify the dean and the academic council and convene a meeting with the student and the appropriate stakeholders, including the fieldwork coordinator and the faculty in charge, to help resolve the student's problem and to facilitate his or her learning in fieldwork. In this module, one has discussed the role of the student as a learner, the need for the student to understand why learning is important in the field, the processes which are involved in learning, and also highlighted the fact that fieldwork is a guided process wherein there are certain expectations from the student as a learner. Keeping in mind the expectations from the agency staff, the agency personnel and the supervisors, it is necessary that the student learns the processes involved in working with different stakeholders in the field. The field, no doubt, provides the student with several learning opportunities, and you as a student should be able to make full use of these under the guidance of your respective supervisors and faculty advisors. In case of any unresolved issues, any concerns which may arise in the field, the student has the opportunity to resort to certain mechanisms to help him or her to resolve the problems in the field, to enhance his or her learning in the fieldwork practicum setting. It needs to be understood that while we are discussing the process involved and the exposure and the facilities which are provided to you as a student learner, it is also essential to appreciate that we are in a human situation and we are working with people all the time. So as a student, you are not only connecting with the agency staff, the agency personnel, the paraprofessionals, the community workers, the community leaders, the outreach workers, but you're also constantly connecting with clients, with target groups, with benefactors, with beneficiaries, and with community groups. So there are spaces where you may be working with self-help groups or with outreach workers, and sometimes conflict is likely to arise. There are problems which are likely to arise even between a supervisor and a supervisee because of their different learning styles, because of the fact that you as a student are an adult learner, the supervisor themselves come with varied experiences. In order to facilitate this process, many times we need to reach out to others to help resolve the problems instead of impacting our learning in the field. When we are undertaking field work, we need to appreciate that we are working with people, and human situations require us to be mindful of others. But there are situations in which you as a student learner might get into a conflict, might get into a situation where you feel that you are at a dead end, or you feel the need to reach out to others other than your supervisor or the agency personnel, and you need help in resolving your own personal issues which may impact your professional growth. In such situations, there is a system in place wherein you can reach out to the fieldwork coordinator, to the faculty advisors, to the program convener, and all these spaces are there to help you to learn better and to grow as a professional. I do hope that this module has been useful to you. You have understood what has been explained to you. I would also urge you to read the e-text along with the references which are relevant for this module. I look forward to further discussion with you in this regard. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much.